It's time for Debrief, TRT World's wrap-up of the top stories from last week.
So in terms of their cooperation over things like
meters away from the targeted location.
Israel has launched airstrikes on Syria's capital, targeting several locations, including the military's headquarters and the presidential palace, killing at least 3 people and wounding dozens.
6 people, including a child, have been killed during clashes between Bedouin tribes and local fighters in the majority Druze city of Sweida in southern Syria.
Israel has attacked several tanks in southern Syria, where Damascus has sent troops to quell growing violence.
In just 48 hours, Sweida spiraled into chaos. The spark, a checkpoint set up by Bedouin tribesmen on the Damascus-Sweida highway. On Tuesday, following talks with Druze elders, the defense ministry declared a full ceasefire. Syrian forces began pulling back.
The Israeli entity, which has consistently targeted our stability and sown discord since the fall of the former regime, now seeks once again to turn our sacred land into a theater of endless chaos.
Israel responded with airstrikes and shelling, saying it won't tolerate Syrian troops near its frontier and claiming to be acting in defense of the Druze. But critics say Israel's sudden concern isn't about protecting minorities, it's about pursuing its own agenda.
Opposition leaders are saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu has illegitimate control. He does not have the right to be the leader of this country because he does not have the majority. As such, Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to appease to these Druze by trying to gain their own votes.
The president wants to see Syria become a prosperous and stable country. We were able to de-escalate, de-conflict. That seems to be continuing. Syria agreed to draw back their troops that were in the area.
Less than a day after the Syrian government pulled troops out of the southern city of Sweida, clashes have escalated between Bedouins and Druze militants.
The UN says there are credible reports of human rights abuses in the area.
The absence of the Syrian forces is only making things worse, to be honest. Now there are hit-and-run battles going on. Hundreds of casualties have occurred due to these clashes.
What we can understand from the Israeli Prime Minister's statements and plans is that essentially he wants to see 3 regions within Syria demilitarized. Now that's highly unlikely.
So what we're essentially seeing is Israel trying to dictate where the Syrian military can station its forces inside its own country.
U.S. guards at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in southern Gaza fired tear gas canisters at desperate aid seekers. This has resulted in a stampede where 15 people literally suffocated to death, while 6 others were shot and killed by Israeli forces there.
Authorities in the centre and the south, they've now started suspending essential services because of lack of fuel that's allowed into the enclave. The services include water well operations, sanitation, waste collection, also rubble removal and the opening of roads by heavy equipment.
Israel has hit a water distribution point next to Nusayrat refugee camp this time. The attack killed and injured several civilians, most of them children.
A ceasefire is desperately needed, but talks in Doha appear to be at a standstill, with both sides in continuous disagreement.
According to the Euromed monitor, the entire population of more than 2 million has been forced into just 55 square kilometers.
The Israeli military has issued further evacuation orders in the north as it pushes residents into an even smaller area.
Israel tightened its siege on the enclave 4 months ago. Its clinics are seeing a rapid rise in the number of children who are starving. And that 1 in 10 children screened in health clinics in Gaza are malnourished.
Strikes targeted crowded civilian areas in the north and south, further overwhelming a health system that is already in crisis.
The aftermath of an Israeli airstrike overnight in Khan Yunis. This man says entire families are buried under the rubble. but nobody can get to them.
There are no tools like shovels or heavy equipment to retrieve them. We have to shift a wall of rubble with only a hammer. The situation is very difficult.
Greek Orthodox Patriarch and Cardinal Pizzaballa have visited the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza a day after an Israeli tank shell struck the compound.
A funeral has been held for the American citizen killed in Friday's attack by illegal Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. 20-year-old Sayfoullah Moussalet was beaten to death in the town of Sinjar.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been forced off their lands. More than 1,000 have been killed. Among them, at least 5 American nationals.
And here's another serving of top stories with our news in brief. On Sunday, Russia launched yet another massive air attack on Ukrainian cities. Hundreds of drones, dozens of missiles. Then on Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new weapons package, Patriot systems paid for by Europe, long-range missiles not included. He also gave Russian President Vladimir Putin an ultimatum, agree to a ceasefire in 50 days or Russia will face 100% tariffs. The Financial Times, using anonymous sources, reported that Trump had encouraged Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a July 4th phone call to strike Russia, including Moscow. But that's not what he said on Tuesday.
Should Zelensky target Moscow or deeper into Russia?
No, he shouldn't target Moscow.
U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson called on the Justice Department to release all documents related to child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, including his alleged list of clients. Johnson also pressed U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to testify under oath. She's under fire for previously saying the files were on my desk before refusing to release them. The Department of Justice, which Bondi heads, insists no client list exists at all, a claim contradicted by court records and internal briefings. Tuesday saw Trump telling reporters that Bondi should release whatever she thinks is credible, calling the files sordid but boring. But his pleas to MAGA loyalists to forget the files exist have gone unheard. MAGA and QAnon-aligned Trump supporters are demanding a full document dump, and the gap between official denials and public suspicion is only widening. On Tuesday, the UK High Court lifted a super injunction on the details of a 2022 leak that exposed the names of 19,000 Afghan nationals, putting them and their families, as many as 100,000 people, in danger of being targeted by the Taliban for helping the British government. The leak also exposed a covert resettlement program that's already secretly flown in 18,500. The true cost of the leak, however, is still unknown.
The Ministry of Defence won't say how many people could have been arrested or killed as a result of the leak, but the consequences could be huge. An enormous financial cost, questions as to why the public and Parliament weren't told sooner, and huge uncertainty for those who only found out they were on that list yesterday.
Overnight Wednesday, a catastrophic fire engulfed a newly opened mall in Kut, eastern Iraq. The 5-story complex that opened just a week ago burned, killing at least 60 people. Most died of smoke inhalation in bathrooms. The governor declared 3 days of mourning, launched legal proceedings against the mall's owners, and vowed a preliminary investigation within 48 hours. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani directed the Interior Minister to oversee a full safety review of commercial structures nationwide. It's a loss not only in terms of lives, but of confidence in structural safety in a nation still rebuilding after decades of war. Don't forget our programs, Africa Matters, Money Talks, and Beyond the Game.
Now, Mali's military leader, Assimi Goïta, recently signed a law extending his military rule by 5 years that can be renewed as many times as necessary without elections. What does that mean for the country and the African continent as a whole? President Goïta has ruled Mali since 2020. He seized power with a promise to end the violence and killings by armed groups and return the country to civilian rule. But that still hasn't happened, and that's why Goïta says he needs to extend his presidency. But he's not the only president on the continent to find it difficult to relinquish the reins of power.
These political science students are learning about leadership turnover today. They discuss how some African leaders have held on to power for far too long, either by force, breaking laws, or changing constitutions.
This erodes democracy. And when democracy is eroded in a society, the aspect of bad governance install itself. When the aspect of bad governance install itself, it becomes difficult for Africa and these countries that have experienced longer stay in power to advance.
It's a turning point for the world of digital money. After years of lobbying, lawsuits and political tension, crypto has finally landed a seat at America's regulatory table. The US Congress has passed the first major US crypto law. The Genius Act focuses on stablecoins backed by the dollar, aiming to regulate the sector and reduce risk.
So you have to provide, for lack of a better term, receipts, and can't just, say, take our word for it as some stablecoin providers used to. But I do think during, an election year, you do have the election optics. Specifically Trump's crypto circle trying to make headlines with a few breakthroughs and things that they may be jumping the gun on that might need a little bit more time to play out and develop.
After 2 weeks of captivating tennis, Wimbledon was preparing for its climax. In an extraordinary crescendo, the universe had conspired to deliver the ultimate men's final, putting the top 2 players in the world against each other. Top-ranked Jannik Sinner and second seed and defending champion Carlos Alcaraz. This rivalry has fast become a blockbuster event, a highly anticipated affair. And fans arrived early in the morning to soak up the excitement for a match that was scheduled to start at 4 p.m. London time. Alcaraz and Sinner have been dominating Grand Slams for the last couple of seasons with 6 titles shared between the 2 players. Alcaraz says there's just a different energy when he faces Sinner as opposed to other players, and that was on full display on Wimbledon Centre Court on Sunday.
First of all, I just really happy about having this rivalry with him. I think it's great for us, and it is great for the tennis.
Sinner has been showing off his newest bit of silverware. And his celebratory tour included some nifty dance moves with fellow Wimbledon champion Iga Świątek, the first Polish player to win this title. Organisers could hardly have asked for a more memorable ending to a tournament that delivered so much. Upsets, heartbreak, pure joy, second chances and comebacks. Wimbledon 2025 had it all. The romance of tennis was on full display here for 2 weeks solid. Same time again next year? Looking forward to it.